Continuing our reading of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the Nectar of Devotion combination, specifically talking about how devotees can perform sadhana bhakti, practice, following in the footsteps of the residents of Vrindavan, which is called Raganuga sadhana bhakti. And that is the topic for today, so let us dive in. The method of Raganuga sadhana. Persons desiring to follow in the footsteps of such eternal devotees of the Lord as the Vrishnis and Vrindavan denizens are called Raganuga devotees, which means that they are trying to attain the perfection of those devotees. These Raganuga devotees do not follow the regulative principles of devotional service very strictly, but by spontaneous nature, they become attracted to some of the eternal devotees, such as Nanda or Yasoda, and they try to follow in their footsteps spontaneously. There is a gradual development of ambition to become like a particular devotee, and this activity is called Raganuga. Last week we read how, before discussing the practice of Raganuga, it was described that it would be important to explain what is Ragatmika Bhakti, because Anuga means to follow. Devotees that have raga, deep thirst, absorption, and love for Krishna, are called Ragatmika Bhaktas, and those who follow them, which this paragraph just describes, are called Raganuga. Anuga means to follow. They're trying to develop that and imbibe and learn that mood of the residents of Vrindavan. There was a beautiful quote by Uddhava, and the purport, he was glorifying the gopis. And the purport of that, that's where we ended last session, was he was explaining that Uddhava didn't want to become a conjugal lover of Krishna. He's fixed in his friendship relationship, but he did want and appreciated the intensity of love that he saw in the gopis. So he was praying for that intensity in his bhakti. So that's pretty much where we're headed here. Sama, can we have a reader continue this section? You have to unmute. And so does anybody who reads.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Nice to see everyone here. Mukunda, nice to see you.
Yes, nice to see you back, Mukunda.
Haribo, Haribo.
Would you like to? Yeah, we have missed you. Please begin for us today.
And Akuranath and Jagavani also.
Oh, yes. How wonderful. Full house today. Of course, there's always more room. Hare Krishna.
We must always remember, however, that such eagerness to follow in the footsteps of the denizens of Raj, Vrindavan, is not possible unless one is freed from material contamination. In following the regulative principles of devotional service, there is a stage called anartha nivritti, which means the disappearance of all material contamination. Sometimes someone is found imitating such devotional love, but factually he is not freed from anarthas or unwanted habits. It has been seen that a so-called devotee proclaims himself a follower of Nanda, Yashoda, or the gopis, while at the same time his abominable attraction for mundane sex life is visible. Such a manifestation of divine love is mere imitation and has no value. When one is actually spontaneously attracted to the loving principles of the gopis, there will be found no trace of any mundane contamination in his character. Therefore, in the beginning, everyone should strictly follow the regulative principles of devotional service according to the injunctions of the scripture and the spiritual master. Only after the stage of liberation from material contamination can one actually aspire to follow in the footsteps of the devotees in Vrindavan.
Okay, thank you. This is a big one. Could you say something about that? I just want to say one thing that Prabhupada said one time, that's a test to see how much advancement one is making, to see if in their hearts there are no more material desires. So that's a really important point in this. Can you speak about that, Mukundaji?
Yeah, I think like most of our Acharyas, Srila Prabhupada is giving a warning against premature attempts to enjoy the stage of Raganuga Bhakti. The aspirational stage, just like for a young child, may aspire to be a pro athlete or a doctor or a lawyer, but still they'll have to do the prerequisite work, go to school, get an education, etc. Similarly, we have to practice the principles of Vaidhi Marg in order to remove anarthas, which means just to regulate our habits, to get rid of things that are pratikul or unwanted in bhakti. But the aspirational desire to follow the residents of Braj can take place at any stage. The actuality manifests prominently in the stage of ruchi, which is after anarthas have been removed. Because it's a little bit difficult sometimes for devotees to digest understanding sometimes when Srila Prabhupada says these things, because then we'll think, I'll have to become perfect to experience what it's like to want to be perfect.
Yeah.
So the warning is just don't prematurely try to enjoy that position. But one should aspire, I would like to have this, therefore let me more strictly follow the things which will be favorable to removing my material anarthas and so forth, which will avail me the access to be able to serve like that.
That's actually perfect. There's one question here about joy, because we see that the gopis and the residents, all the residents of Braj, are motivated only to give Krishna pleasure. So that's the criteria for one's enjoyment. That focused mentality of only acting for Krishna's pleasure. That's so that would, because in the material world we get a little confused about this enjoy. Even if I enjoy a perfect state of consciousness, only if Krishna is pleased, I can be pleased. That's it. Thank you.
One question along those lines that comes up, I'm sure most devotees feel, because on one hand, humility is a guiding light of all devotees, so we always feel humble about our position, and therefore that can leak and influence our enthusiasm, thinking that, oh, I'm just not so qualified. It said here one has to be completely freed from material contamination, and I'm not. So how to navigate the heart through that muck?
Mukunda mentioned that before.
Well,
that
I'm asking him to expand on it a
elaborate.
little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things is that actually real humility in the stage of prior to getting to Nishta is the etiquette guided by Guru, Sadhu, and Sastra. Because in Sri Brihad Bhagavatamrita it mentions actual humility is actually a byproduct of actually being realized. Pari Pokana Dainyasya Krishna Premaja Samritanyate. So the humility we have is a kind of self-imposed psychology that's politically correct in our social environment. I should be really humble in many cases. And also there's a sort of self-defeatist, sometimes ideal. I just can't do it. I'm just too fallen, etc., etc. We have to think I'm only living by the mercy and by the grace of Guru. If anything good is happening, it's the grace of Guru. My inability to do something is my own lack of surrender. So we can feel like that's genuine. But genuine humility really takes place, according to Brihad Bhagavatamrita, when there's actually, like if Bhaktivinoda Thakur will express, Amara Jivan Sarapopedata Naika Punya Lesh. I'm so fallen, I'm the worst, I'm not even having any kind of pious activity. For Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it's the result of his bhakti that's producing a sensibility, like in Srila Prabhupada as well, of great humility. For us, sometimes also, and it's a very good point, Dhruva, those statements of humility sometimes cover our lack of surrender to try. Also, I'm very fallen. Understand? But there's no harm in saying, I just realized I haven't realized my siddhi yet. So I'll have to become more surrendered. But if we use it, as you're saying, as an obstacle to becoming more advanced, then we're actually, it's not favorable to bhakti.
You use the term self-defeating humility. That's exactly what I think it is. It's like a self-defeating layer that one has to go through. One of the things we found in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Bhakti Aloka was in Niyamagraha.
My dad's response.
Somebody's not
Victoria
muted.
G,
No, I must have pulled something from the.
she doesn't know that she's, you mute her, Patty.
Yeah. Okay. Where was I?
Nirmal.
Oh, Bhaktivinoda Niyamagraha, following the rules and regulations, only for the sake of following them. There's a point here. It's a fine line. When we hear spontaneous devotional service, it sounds almost like because I want to do it or because it comes into my heart, therefore it's the right thing to do. Raga Bhakti is not. We went through this last session. Raga Bhakti doesn't necessarily mean whatever comes to your mind or whatever pops up in your heart. Raga means absorption in the object of love.
Yes.
So that has to be the guiding principle. And if you're doing it for Krishna's pleasure, then I find it's easier to traverse those difficult, what am I giving up? For a higher taste. For a higher taste, when you go for the higher taste, automatically, just like that example of eating, when you eat, then your hunger automatically goes away. You don't have to make any extra endeavor for it.
Yes.
It just drops out of the way. It's like natural. It doesn't even take effort because you're so absorbed in eating. Then it automatically. So if we're absorbed in our service and absorbed in our meditations, absorbed in our attraction for that path, then automatically the other things fall away.
Yeah, one other thing, I'll just conclude with that, is that sometimes if we also we're always saying, even 30, 40 years later, I'm very fallen, it's kind of, it's not aparad, but it's a diminishing of the power of your guru.
Oh,
Because if we think that my guru is so merciful to me, so kind to me, but after 40 years, he was unable to empower me to have some kind of realization, some kind of advancement, it's actually a statement, oh, my Guru Dev is not really effective.
that's an interesting technique.
Okay, wait a second. I got to put a plug in for humility, which is the first symptom of knowledge. So, there used to be a thing years ago, be proud to be humble. It's not, we don't, but humility is a great topic to study and Prabhupada, Pati went to hearing in a lecture, and Prabhupada was saying, you are very advanced, everyone. I am very fallen, So this is, and we read so many places that the acharyas feel, and the pure devotees feel themselves very fallen, but it's not something you advertise. It's something, it's an internal bhav in your relationship with Krishna, that you feel very fallen, that we are in the material world after all. I mean, what do we got to be proud of? One thing, we have Srila Prabhupada, we have the holy name. So not a bad thing to cultivate that.
Of course.
Okay. Acharya has.
Oh.
Test of whether humility is good or bad is whether or not the results increase. What was that? Sorry. Say it.
The test of whether humility is good or bad or appropriate or not, or used or misused, is whether or not it results in increased enthusiasm for bhakti.
Oh, nice.
That's beautiful. Is that an Acharya Uvacha? Is that an Acharya Uvacha?
I mean, I said it. I don't know.
Okay, Acharya. There you go. All right, let's go on. And there's two paragraphs here. One, Shruti Rupa, would you like to read the first one?
Yes, I will. But can I say one thing back from what you just said and
Sure.
that Mukunda was saying? I was thinking that the beauty of what Mukunda said and the beauty of what you said, both are true. And that's actually spiritual life. And, because it's all encompassing and, where he was saying it's self-defeating. And I agree that some of us do go on saying, I'm so fallen, and they actually never change those habits. But then what you said about Prabhupada said, is also true too. And then with the sense is Prabhupada setting example for us to teach us, where he's saying that he's fallen and we're so.
Well, what's that based on? That's based on genuine feeling.
Yes, well,
genuine
of course,
feeling.
of course.
So-
And
so
but
if we-
Prabhupada has to teach us genuine feeling even.
Yes, so we have to get to the genuine feeling part, then we are right.
Yeah, I
Yes.
agree.
See.
So, but it's beautiful that, both can be there and it's still correct.
Yes. Nice.
Spiritual life. Hare Krishna.
Okay. It is
Alright.
said by Sri Rupa Goswami, when one is actually liberated from material contamination, he can always remember an eternal devotee in Vrindavan in order to love Krishna in the same capacity. And developing such an aptitude, one will always live in Vrindavan, even within his mind. The purport is that it is possible one should go and the purport is that if it is possible, one should go and physically be present at Brajabhumi, Vrindavan, and be engaged always in the service of the Lord, following the devotees in Brajadam, the spiritual realm of Vraja. If it is not possible, however, to be physically present in Vrindavan, one can meditate anywhere on living in that situation. Wherever he may be, one must always think about life in Vrajadam and about following in the footsteps of a particular devotee in the service of the Lord.
Okay. Now, before we discuss this, Sudha Sindhu, do you want to read this? Sudha Sindhu ji, you there?
Yeah,
Oh, good. Hare
Uh,
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. As
A
a,
devotee?
a devotee who is actually at once in Krishna consciousness, who is constantly engaged in devotional service, should not manifest himself, even though he has attained perfection. The idea is that he should always continue to act as a neophyte devotee as long as his material body is there. Activities in devotional service under regulative principles must be followed even by the pure devotee. But when he realizes his actual position in relationship with the Lord, he can, along with the discharging of regulative service, think within himself of the Lord under the guidance of a particular associate of the Lord, and develop his transcendental sentiment in following that associate.
Okay. Now, can you say something about that? Activities in devotional service under the regulative principles must be followed even by the pure devotees. Can you say something about that?
My understanding is even some pure devotee they are at once, but like maybe certain spiritual master, but they don't show their advancement. They only
Good.
show their still follow regular principle so that the disciple can follow the principle.
Good. Setting an example.
Yeah.
And also, okay, Shruti, what about what you read? And can you comment on this?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it's something I aspire to, and I've been meditating on who is it that, that's the gopi or, resident of Vrindavan that I aspire to follow in their footsteps. And, with my conditioned state, I'm praying obviously in the line of decorating and cooking and thinking, and I just want to participate in that. So it's a beautiful meditation. At the same time, also, I was thinking how merciful the Lord is, that even if we can't live there, if we can meditate. And then I was feeling grateful for the time spent that we have that in our memory block, that we can reach and access that will allow us also the same benefits. So again, spiritual life it's so encouraging, and it's always positive, no matter which way we look, if we stick to the principles and the whole process.
Wonderful.
That was beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. I get the exact same thing, using events and places I've been to enhance the meditation. But also want to point out that, like you were just talking about decorating and cooking, I think according to what we're reading, that will develop even further and more naturally as you continue that meditation and your practice. It's kind of like that example again of the plant. What's inside is coming out of it as it matures.
Mm.
That's
Oh,
beautiful.
One more. I have a question for that. Can we think in this? Of course, maybe after doing this for most of our lives, maybe it's true that our inclination now in the service that we desire to perform, would that indicate our eternal nature or not? I mean,
I've asked, more advanced than me if that's true. I think I might have even asked Shiva Maharaj when he was here, since I have that inclination, am I to continue that thought in that meditation? But it's not necessarily. So
it's
I
not
think,
necessarily. It
No.
it isn't. We might
instead
be.
there's anything you can do, you can, follow that.
One more thing, the nature of the pure devotee and this internal absorption, and how Prabhupada says we don't, a pure devotee who is fixed in his bhav and rasa with Krishna doesn't advertise it.
Right.
That's a sign of
Right.
great humility also,
Right.
that one who's advanced doesn't necessarily, and Prabhupada was the perfect example. He always felt very humble. All of a sudden he would go into a trance and we didn't know where he was. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Both of you, thank you. Okay, let's go on with Faye reading. Faye, you want to read?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Yes, I would love to read. Thank
Okie
you.
dokie.
Sri Rupa Goswami says that learned acharyas recommend that we follow the regulative principles even after the development of spontaneous love for Krishna. According to the regulative principles, there are 9 departmental activities as described above, and one should specifically engage himself in the type of devotional service for which he has a natural aptitude. For example, one person may have a particular interest in hearing, another may have a particular interest in chanting, and another may have a particular interest in serving in the temple. So these, or any of the other 6 different types of devotional service, remembering, serving, praying, engaging in some particular service, being in a friendly relationship, or offering everything in one's possession, should be executed in full earnestness. In this way, everyone should act according to his particular taste.
Okay, what do you think about that? In this way, everyone should act according to his particular taste. What's Prabhupada saying? What's Rupa Goswami saying?
Along those lines, if you remember actually this comes from the Gita, if you are in a particular group or class and you're doing your job incorrectly, that's not good. You should go into the division of Varnashram Dham that fits your abilities. Likewise, I'd also say that Krishna is our seed-giving Father. And in our variegatedness, we all have wonderful traits that we should earnestly use in the service of Krishna. We're not supposed to be doing things just for fun. We're supposed to be doing things to please Krishna always. And our inclinations might give us a hint of what we would like to be or do or how we would like to serve Krishna. But in truth, Krishna knows already how we are going to serve and what we are best at in serving him. So the whole idea is to let Krishna, through Guru, through the Acharyas, guide us to that perfect type of devotional service that fits everything he wants us to do for
Good.
him.
Good. So we have to find that person to follow, that perfect
Yes.
spiritual master who will guide us. Beautiful.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you for letting me read.
Oh, Hare Krishna. Anyone else would like to say something about this before we move on to the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu?
That section ends Srila Prabhupada's
Oh, Thakur is here.
comments and prose of the next verses, which will be directly from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu.
Thakur, would you like to say something?
Yes, Hare Krishna, everybody.
Haribo.
Krishna.
Yes, so I was thinking that in the 9 processes of devotional service, there are certain personalities that are maybe mentioned as examples. And for example, Travanam Kirtanam, those 2 personalities, Shukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Pariksit. And the prayers, offering, sacrifices, the other net processes. So it's saying here that we will find one that we like. For example, Haridas Thakur, Namachar, he chanted so many rounds daily. Okay. So we're saying that it's saying, okay, the one that we are maybe naturally disposed towards, but the others we should pay some attention to. So that's my understanding. So yeah, personally.
What was that last point?
I was saying that the other processes, there are 6 there are processes that are there. We may be attracted to 1 or 2, but the other process we should try to pay attention to. The other processes. That's my understanding.
Even
Yes.
if you're inclined to like a different kind of service, these other processes also are there and they shouldn't be neglected. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I think the points being made here in this whole section, there are other parts of other books which describe, like you said, there's 9 different divisions of devotional service, and there's an example of each one of them has a corresponding devotee that attains perfection by focusing on that one thing. Like the example is Maharaj Pariksit just heard, and he attained perfection from that. Sukadeva Goswami chanted, and he attained perfection by that. Prahlad Maharaj remembered, etc. So, and then there's Maharaj Ambarish, who did all 9. So the point's being made that there are particular devotees that are attracted to 1, sometimes 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 5. The point is that if you have a natural attraction for them, then do them and cultivate it. But there's no rule about how you have to do this one or do that one when it comes to this part of devotional service. In the beginning, the Vaidhi Bhakti, then you have to follow strictly all the different rules and regulations as they're laid out. The point that's being described here in the whole book of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is that at one point, just like a person who's learning the music, you learn the scales, and you just have to practice. Da 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 da. And then finally you start to play some songs, and then you start to get attracted to a particular type of music, and then a particular genre, and etc. You advance, and as you advance, it's not that you never practice the scales, but the necessity for it is far less. Just like fundamentals in a sport, the pros practice, but once they become efficient, then there's less need for that and more opportunity for a spontaneous expression.
Because that is already part of your nature.
Good.
Because it's already part of you.
And that's what it's describing in this part of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that part awakening in someone.
Okay, good. Oh, wait a minute. There was a hand. I think there's a couple of hands. Should we go? Tisha, did you have your hand raised? No, that was Jagarini.
No hands.
She's Jags. You have to unmute, sweetie.
Okay. I was just thinking from that last point on a practical level that my understanding of that is that well, especially since Prabhupada already mentioned in the what we were reading that even one who's reached those levels should follow the process. So you might be very, very, very advanced in Krishna consciousness, and you're still chanting your rounds, and you're still reading every day.
Must.
So there might be a proclivity towards a certain type of service that you can become expert at, and that eventually leads you to understand your Siddha or whatever, but when Prabhupada reveals it to you. But you're always going to have an attraction for hearing and chanting, and as you advance anyway.
Let's take Srila Prabhupada as an
good.
example. It's a
Yeah.
good example. He had such an attraction that he had developed from his over his lifetime for hearing and studying books, Shastra, that although everyone else was sleeping, he
Yeah.
would wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning, 12
He's
o'clock at
up, what,
night,
3 or 4
and
hours.
sit there and just dive into Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhakti or any of the books he was translating, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and spend hours. And it wasn't just a flighty attraction, because he did it for years, every single night. He was on a mission, but he also had that taste. We can't even imagine the sweetness that pulled him along. So although he didn't, most of the time didn't attend a Mangal Artik, he was totally absorbed in his service. I think
Right.
that's a good example.
Yeah.
And also he got up early because all the kids were sleeping. Just like a mother, when the children are sleeping, then that's her free time. So Prabhupada was undisturbed. He was undisturbed by any of our neophytes.
I had a little comment about humility, that because I had this conversation with Jamuna just yesterday, and she sent me pictures of the ISV altars, Ram Nomi and everything. And that group of devotees, the devotees that do the decorating they're so expert. They do the most beautiful things. And she works with them, and she said the most wonderful part of it is they're such a team that they take each other's criticisms very seriously. No one ever gets offended. So they could be building this whole flower arrangement. Somebody saying, doesn't quite fit the mood. It's not right. Oh, okay, Mataji. And then they'll take it apart and do it over. No hesitation. And the results are, and I was thinking in terms of humility, that, you can get to a point where you're like that, where when someone criticizes you or something like that, that you don't take it, your ego doesn't get wounded.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good. Beautiful point. Thank you. Did Mukunda, I think, wanted to say something real quick? Mukunda,
No, I think we'll move on because it may take a little too long. So.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Jagrini, you want to read?
Sure. Thank you. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 12291. The qualification for Raganuga Bhakti is as follows. That person who is greedy for attaining a bhav similar to that of the inhabitants of Vraj, who are fixed solely in Ragatmika Bhakti, is qualified for Raganuga Bhakti. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. Having described the characteristics of Ragatmika Bhakti of the Siddha Bhaktas, the author now describes the characteristics of Raganuga Bhakti of the Sadhakas. He who is greedy to attain a bhav similar to that of the people of Braj, who are fixed in Ragatmika Bhakti, is qualified for Raganuga Bhakti.
We can just go on, so.
Okay. Okay. So, Akuranath, you want to read? Thank you, Jagrini.
292. The appearance of that greed is indicated when the intelligence does not depend on rules of scripture and logic. After realizing to some degree the sweetness of the inhabitants of Raja's love, through the process of hearing from the scriptures. Jiva Goswami's commentary. When a person realizes to some degree the sweetness of the love and activities of the inhabitants of Braja through hearing from the scriptures, such as Bhagavatam, which describe these Siddha devotees, his intelligence may develop disregard for the injunctions of scripture, Shastram, and logic, Yuktim, though logic is certainly employed.
Okay. Let's talk about this
So
a little.
explain
Okay.
that, yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Akuranathji.
Oh, yeah, is describing this greed for the attainment of Ragatmika Bhakti, like that of some of the Siddha devotees, and that a symptom of that is that it's not any longer dependent on the regulations or the rational, search for truth through like jnana yoga, but rather it becomes an attraction to just follow the mood and try to acquire the mood of these perfect devotees.
So the rules and regulations are not the foremost. More than that is the desire to enjoy. But of course, there are, as we
Wait,
discussed
what?
before.
Not to enjoy, but to
I mean, not enjoy, to anyway, so no, to attain our eternal service to Krishna.
which
Right.
is very enjoyable. It's just it's
Oh,
not
yeah.
Sure, it can be
it's not selfish
enjoyable. That's
enjoyment.
not,
It's
but that's
enjoyment
not the main
of
motive.
higher taste. Yeah.
That was what? Enjoy? Okay, I made a mistake. Mukunda, save me.
No, I don't know about that. So once some devotees were asking me about this before, and I was trying to give an example of it. It's not that Sastra and Sastra Yukti, which means the logic and application of Sastra, are dismissed. It's that the taste and the sweetness of the Hari Katha, or what's being spoken, becomes dominant. Like if a person tastes halava. So they may not be, a culinary expert or anything, but when you taste the halava, the taste of the halava itself becomes dominant. You may not want to inquire how much butter is used, what's the cooking time,
Nice
how many
example.
things are used inside. Now that it's not that you're void of, if somebody wants to explain it to you, fine. But the taste at the time only demands is there seconds.
Yeah.
So when taste dominates, it doesn't negate the preparation, the ingredients that are involved. It just makes that the taste is prominent at that time. So this is from a verse, Tat Tat Bhava de Marure Shruti Dirapekshate. It's the verse describing Ruchi. And at that time, the taste becomes dominant. So the logic and the sastra related to it is not dominant. It's not void, but it's just not dominant.
Very nice. This next verse, I'm just looking ahead at it, takes that in a similar direction.
Okay, Tisha, would you like to read it?
Yes, Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
293. Those qualified for Vaidhi Bhakti are dependent on the rules of scripture and favorable use of logic until the appearance of Bhava Bhakti. Right, those qualified for Vaidhi Bhakti are dependent on the rules of scripture and favorable use of logic until the appearance of Bhava Bhakti. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. In performing sadhana bhakti, the Vaidhi Bhakti practitioner will depend on scriptural injunctions and favorable use of logic until the appearance of rati. After the appearance,
Rati means affection, attraction.
okay, thank you. I didn't know. After the appearance of rati, he no longer depends on these things. However, as soon as the greed manifests in him, the greed for attaining a bhav similar to that of the Rajarishis, and he develops an inclination for Raga Bhakti, the practitioner of Raganuga Bhakti does not depend any longer on scriptural rules and logic. Thus, it is greatly superior. However, wherever that greed has appeared, it is understood that the person must have studied the scriptures in order to attain that greed.
Isn't that
It is
beautiful?
Yes, that's like perfect.
Yeah.
It is also necessary to study the scriptures in order to understand the proper sadhana for Raga Nuga Bhakti.
Okay, that last part is essential. It's not that these things happen without doing the work. What do you got to say about that, Tisha?
I was just really thinking about the Suedos, all the different gurus that are out there that act or pretend like they've reached that stage, but if you spend a little time with them, the shallowness of that, they don't know the scriptures or they haven't read the scriptures can be apparent. So
Oh, good
just for-
example.
yeah.
Have to really be careful who we hear from. We are so fortunate to hear from Prabhupada. He is
Yeah.
pointing us, this is a pure devotee, he's pointing us in the right direction. You can spend your life hearing from Prabhupada and you'll go to a good place.
Yeah.
You're very fortunate. We're all very fortunate.
Mhm.
Anything else?
That's all I have to say.
That's pretty
Someone
good.
else.
That's good.
I'll
Okay.
go over this again, Tisha, because this was really nice. This part about logic and understanding and scriptural. Start up here again, however.
However, as soon as the greed manifests in him for attaining a bhav similar to that of a rishis, Rajavasis, yes, and he develops an inclination for Raga Bhakti, the practitioner of Raganuga Bhakti does not depend any longer on scriptural rules and logic.
You
Thus-
understand that? You understand that?
I
That you've come to a higher
Yes,
platform where
higher.
it's spontaneous within you naturally. You've incorporated that within you, and you're not going to break any, but it might be, there's a higher level of consciousness. It's not that the pure devotees go around breaking all the rules and regulations. That's not the symptom of a pure devotee.
Good point.
You know, it's not, if something, it's already incorporated, just like my husband gave the example of the music. The good musician knows the scales so well in all their different arrangements that he doesn't have to think about it anymore because it's become part of his being practically.
And he never plays a sour note.
yeah.
It never goes off
Because he's
scale.
so trained, so incorporated within himself.
Yeah.
So that's why, after reading all the scriptures and incorporating this knowledge within yourself, you're at the point where you can actually see on a higher level. Not that you go around breaking all the rules and regulations just to prove that you're advanced. You know, Jagarini.
And the part about not relying on the scriptural rules, or it's not that you, if use Prabhupada as an example once again. So Srila Prabhupada didn't depend on the Shastra for his realization any longer, right? He was completely self-realized. He was completely, anyway, you understand what I'm saying. But yet he had such command over the Shastra. He would use it for our sake, to emphasize the points that he was making. So it's not that.
I don't think it was just for us, Jagarini. Maybe we can just fine tune that
Yeah.
analogy. He braided it into his rope
Yes.
of delivery.
But I guess my point was that it wasn't that he needed it to develop his own,
Right.
knowledge. He'd gone beyond that. But it
But
doesn't
he
mean-
appreciated it.
yeah,
He appreciated
you
it.
get there.
Well, it was just
Oh,
like you gave the example, Samit, of the musician. The scales are incorporated already naturally into their playing.
Right.
So similarly, the Shastras were incorporated already in Srila Prabhupada's life.
Right. So you need those Shastras. You can't skip them, is what I guess where I'm
I
going.
see.
You have
Of
to
course not.
get to the point where you know them so well.
And
that-
Srila Prabhupada liked to read his own books. Why? Because that was eternal knowledge that Krishna was whispering in
Yeah.
his ear. How wonderful is that for a perfect
Yeah.
example of self-realization? Acharya.
Hare Krishna, thank you. I think one way of looking at it that I find useful is that it's actually it's not a question of, do I accept this? Do I give up that? Is this good? Is this bad? But it's a question of motivation. That rules and regulations are going to be there, but your main motivation in Raganuga Bhakti is the greed. It's not that one supplants the other. They're all there, but what's your motivation for devotion?
Can you give a practical example, something you might have
Yeah.
experienced?
I'll give an example Prabhupada gives in Nectar of Devotion. He says in the beginning that you get up early in the morning and rise and bathe and go to the Mangal Arati because the spiritual master tells you to. But then you get a taste for it,
Good.
and then you're going voluntarily and you're making plans. How can I decorate the deity in this way, in that way? And that's not the sum total of what Raganuga Bhakti is, but that's the example that Prabhupada gave of it.
Nice.
Yeah, and also this word greed. We have to know it's not a material greed, right? It's not a material greed. Mukunda.
Yeah, also as far as like reading Shastra and everything, in a certain stage, we're reading Shastra to gain information and so forth and so on. But like Srila Prabhupada,
Another nice
he
example.
didn't see that Bhagavatam was like information. He saw Bhagavatam was directly Krishna. Tulya Bhagavata Krishna Vibhu Savasrai. Bhagavatam is actually the form of Krishna. So it's not that, and Chaitanya Charitamrita is Gaur Leela. So he didn't see them as information content. He saw that Bhagavatam was actually Krishna's Leela. He saw Chaitanya Charitamrita's Gaur Leela, that the writings of the Goswamis, that they were actually personified as the Goswamis, and he's having Sangha with them. So there's different levels of reading. Reading for information is one thing. So in the stage of Rag, Anuga Bhakti, that mood of reading Shastra for the sake of gaining information and so forth, that's what's kind of given up, because greed is prominent, and now one sees the Shastra as non-different from the object of their worship.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, if there's a taste, you develop a taste. You develop a taste. You're associated with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his associates. When you read, when you chant Hare Krishna also, it's your time with Krishna. This japa. Japa is an unsung hero. It is the Yuga Dharma. It's your time with Krishna. This is your private time with Krishna. How cool is that? Okay, that's a signal. Let's go on. Nanda, will you read for us, please?
Yes, ma'am. 1/2 of a second.
Okay.
Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 294. Remembering the Vrindavan form of Krishna and his dear associates who have inclinations for service similar to one's own, absorbing oneself in hearing topics related to them, one should always live in Vraj. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary now starts the description of the method of Raganuga sadhana. One should remember the most dear form of Krishna, the son of Nanda of Kaishora age, and the devotees of that particular form of Krishna who have the same type of desires for serving Krishna as oneself. Remembering such devotees, one should live in Vraj. If possible, one should physically live in Vraj, the place where Krishna resided as Nanda's son. If one cannot do that, one should live there mentally.
Okay, tell me about that, because we're most of us not there in Braj at the moment, physically.
Yes, but by Prabhupada's grace, he's given us Vraj here, you know. I think of that often, you know. Sometimes I think, like we've got the deities, beautiful deities. We have service to the deities. We have association of devotees and so many things. But anyway,
You want to put it back to the words?
yeah, please.
Pati, put it back to the words.
Yeah. But you know, it always comes up like, who was it recently that was, I was talking to somebody about, hold on, I have to think of, which book it was. Was it, okay, it was in Jaiva Dharma. When in the first 10 chapters, it was before the first 10 chapters are in there. So one devotee had approached one of those Babajis and had served and was making progress. And one day the Babaji addressed him. The Babaji was in his spiritual trance, and he looked over at him physically there in Navadvip, but he was meditating on a pastime in Vrindavan, and he told the devotee, tell that monkey to be quiet because he's going to be disturbing Radha Krishna in the morning, and tell him to be quiet. And then that devotee realized, this is my spiritual master is revealing my Siddha Sarup, that I had to keep the monkey quiet, and the monkey had a name, etc., etc. So I think of that like in terms of a struggling sadhaka like myself, I would never think of that would be my eternal service. So it's not like I would be thinking of how to become attracted to keeping the monkey quiet or was it Narottam Das Thakur who his service was to boil the milk? There's so many services available. How
And
do
you have the perfect one. You will have the perfect one
Yeah,
perfectly.
right. But the point isn't that. The point isn't that we won't have the perfect service. The point is that as sadhakas thinking and meditating on our service in Vrindavan, how do we even start that? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but even the services in back, in the spiritual world, that they could also change. At one time you can be this, at another time you can be a blade of grass, and another time,
Be a flower.
No.
No.
Mukundaji. Mukunda. I'm
No,
used.
whatever your swarup is, that's your swarup. But you can have one in Krishna Lila and one in Gaur Lila.
Yeah.
But whatever your form is, and the services can change though. Like even if you
That's
have
it.
a
That's
form
what
as
I'm
a
saying.
The
Sakya,
service
if
can
you have a
change.
form as a Sakya, you may be doing Kal Seva, you may also be doing this or doing that, but you always will be as a Sakya of Krishna.
Right.
If that's your eternal mood. So you won't change to become another Swarup per se.
But you could change the services. I mean,
Yes, of course,
the
of course.
hairpin in Mother Yasoda's hair, and then that soul will be somebody else in service to Mother Yasoda at another time. Yes.
No.
No.
No, but
No,
that isn't, because it's too, I mean, what is it, neutral? The neutral, to be a hairpin, of course, everyone's alive in the spiritual world, but that's kind of like neutrality.
Santarasa is also not prominent in Braj. Only in Tattva we describe the trees and so forth, but in function, the trees function as friends of Krishna.
Yeah, that's true.
Mother Yashoda's hairpin, for instance, has a mood of Vatsalya to decorate Mother Yashoda to attract Krishna. So it's
But
only,
in that same mood of Vatsalya, couldn't it morph into another?
no.
I don't mean another mood. I'm talking about another object, whether it is a hairpin or it's the something else in that mood of neutrality.
If we were to take your example, Shruti, what you're saying doesn't really coincide with what we've been reading about the Sthayi Bhava.
Okay.
If you have a tomato plant and you put it in a garden with mangoes, it doesn't become a mango. It remains its nature is as a tomato, and it will manifest as such no matter where you put it. So similarly, each soul being part and parcel of Krishna, even the Vishnu tattvas, every living entity has an eternal nature and characteristic. So that, and then they'll perform different services from that point of view.
Yeah, I think I'm getting confused, but I appreciate the clarification. But that makes
They don't change form, but their services. The hairpin in Mother Yasoda's hair one day might be in the front and another day over on the side, but it's still a hairpin.
Yeah, I didn't have that understanding. Thank you for that.
The only exception is Nard. Nard Muni is the only exception. He's a special case. He has many swarups in different forms, but it's
Well, another example too would be we read that Lord Shiva, under the direction of Yogamaya and Vrindadevi, wanted to enter the rasa dance, was taken over to Manasarovar and dipped in and came out as a gopi.
But
He didn't fool Krishna. He didn't fool Krishna. Remember that one part when Krishna was asked, "What does this person look like?" Was there anything unusual? 3 eyes, and then he cracked up. Krishna cracked up because he was thinking the absolute epitome of masculinity coming in as Gopishwari. Okay, Kurnath has one quickie. Kurnath.
I was thinking about when we're talking about having an identity in Gaura Lila, that I mean, even though Lord Chaitanya, we're not personally in his presence right now, can one be a book distributor in Gaura Lila, or an ISKCON temple commander in Gaura Lila, or something like that? I mean, isn't this Gaura Lila also that we're serving Prabhupada in his mission of distributing Krishna consciousness all over the world?
well, we're in Gaur Lila like that. The Gaur Lila in the material world is different than the Gaur Lila in the spiritual world. So the way you're a temple commander and distributing books here, it transforms into a different thing in the spiritual world, and your eternal bhav with Lord Chaitanya in Navadvip Dham, which is a part of Goloka Vrindavan. So it's different. It's not. We're preparing. We're preparing. We're getting purified. Whatever we're doing here is to purify us to attain our eternal Sai Bhav in the spiritual world. Okay, that's the signal. Manvatara, why don't you read for us?
Bhakti Rasamitra Sindhu, text 295. Following after the inhabitants of Raj, one should perform service in one's physical body and in one's siddha body with a desire for a particular bhav. Viswanatha Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. One performs service with Sadhika Rupa, the present body, and with the Siddha Rupa, the body in which is suitable for serving Raj Krishna in the particular type of rati or bhav one desires, and which appears through inner contemplation with a desire for a particular rati directed to one's beloved Krishna situated in Vrinda, Tat Bhava Lipsuna. One should follow after the dear devotees of Krishna, such as Radha, Lalita, Vishaka, Sri Rupa Manjari, and those following after them, persons such as Sri Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. Accordingly, one should perform mental service in one's Siddha Rupa, following after the example of Sri Radha, Lalita, Vishaka, Sri Rupa Manjari, and others. In one's physical body, one should perform service using one's body, following after persons such as Sri Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, situated in Raj.
Okay, Karnath, this is in answer to your question, your statement, I think. Don't you think? That the two different kind of distinguished marks. Okay, anyone, do you have some realization about this?
What are they, the distinguishing marks?
Well, one is talking about your constitutional position in the eternal spiritual world. And then one is your activities, your sadhana activities here in the material world, where you're serving Lord Chaitanya, following the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. I got it from that. Pati, is that true?
Yeah, could apply that.
Okay.
Anything from Manvantara on what she read?
No, thank you. I'm still
Okay.
trying to digest the whole thing.
Okay. Joe?
I have a question. I've thought about this. What are Lord Chaitanya's pastimes in the spiritual world? Because everybody there is pure devotee. So what, his pastimes here, passing out the holy name,
That's part of his pastimes.
So what's he doing there where everybody's already in Goloka, everybody's already a pure
He exhibited some of that in his Leela here, when in the house of Srivas Thakur, when he was experiencing his internal separation from Krishna.
Then it's just that part of his.
There's
no one to preach to.
Well, that doesn't mean there's no glorification of the holy name and no glorification of Krishna.
Sankirtan, Kirtan, yes.
If you read in Adi Leela, chapter 3, is titled The External Reasons for the Lord's Appearance.
Right.
And chapter 4 is described the internal reasons for the Lord's appearance. And basically what it's saying, it doesn't mean that one's outside or inside, although that's the way it sounds. It means that the external reason was for the benefit of the fallen souls. So like you're saying, in Goloka Vrindavan, there's no necessity for that because everybody's already eternally liberated. But the internal bhavs and expressions and moods, there's an entire part of Goloka Vrindavan where Navadvip,
It's enormous and eternal.
where the Lord is with his associates, constantly engaged in meditating on Krishna from the mood of Srimati Radharani. It's his eternal pastime in that way. And the whole Antya-lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita gives us a glimpse into that.
Yeah, actually, Mahaprabhu has his own Ashtakaliya Lila.
Yes.
Like God and Krishna have an Ashtakaliya Lila.
Yeah.
In fact, before you do the Ashtakaliya Lila Smarna of Radha and Krishna, the Mahaprabhu's Ashtakaliya Smarna is done first. So he rises early in the morning, he speaks to Vishnu Priya, he goes to greet his mother, he goes to bathe in the Ganges, he then sits with others and they do reading of Bhagavatam, he goes to the house of Srivas. That's an eternal pastime throughout 8 periods of the day in Gaur Lila. And they do not leave Navadvip, so he doesn't go to Puri, he doesn't travel to South India, etc. Just like
But that bhav of separation, which is completely manifest in Puri, that he does experience that in the eternal-
kirtan in the courtyard of Srivas, but he does not leave Navadvip. Like in Krishna's Ashtakaliya Lila, he doesn't leave Vrindavan. That only takes place in the Prakat Lila here. So in
But
Krishna's
simultaneously, he's existing simultaneously according to
yes, both things are going on
Dharma. Both
simultaneously.
things are happening. And the feelings of separation, I was always on the impression that this bhav, this feeling of separation, is certainly manifest in Navadvip, in Goloka Vrindavan, because that is, as my husband was saying, this Adi 4, that whole pastime, that whole internal absorption, it's existing, isn't it, in the spiritual
Vishwanath
world?
Chakravarti, he's written the Ashtakaliya Lila Stotram of Mahaprabhu. So you could read it there. I'll find it maybe if I get time. I'm getting ready to travel. But I'll post it. I'll send it to your good husband to post. It describes Mahaprabhu's Lila.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Acharya, would you like to finish up here for us? And let me just say for everyone else who didn't get a chance to read, this was a wonderful, well-attended class, and we didn't prepare more readings. So you will definitely have a chance, Thakur and Madan, next time. Please forgive me. Okay? Okay, go on, Acharya-ji.
Thank you. Text 296. The discriminating practitioners should accept the angas which were mentioned in Vaidhi Bhakti, such as hearing and chanting, as the angas of Raganuga Bhakti. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. Along with hearing and chanting, items such as surrendering to the lotus feet of the Guru should be understood as favorable. Without those favorable items, how can one accomplish following after the eternal inhabitants of Vraja? After considering with intelligence, one should select activities conducive to one's own sentiments for Krishna, and not those activities which are contrary to one's sentiments. Though prescribed in the scriptures, activities of deity worship, such as worshiping Rukmini, meditation of Dwaraka, performing mujas or nyasas, or identifying oneself with the Lord and worshiping oneself, should be rejected. The scriptures also say that on the path of bhakti, there is no fault in omitting some of the procedures such as meditation on Rukmini. O King, one who accepts this process of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead will never blunder on his path in this world. Even while running with his eyes closed, he will never trip or fall. Bhagavatam 11:235. My dear Uddhava, because I have personally established it, this process of devotional service unto me is transcendental and free from any material motivation. Certainly, a devotee never suffers even the slightest loss by adopting this process. Bhagavatam 11:29-20.
Okay, Acharya, what are your realizations here?
I don't know about realizations. This is all very rich for my blood, but that's why I like text 295 and 296, that it's, saying something that's important to me, meaningful to me, is that you don't give up sadhana. You may adjust a little here, a little here. Okay, you don't meditate on Rukmini, you meditate on Radha and Krishna, but it's not a rejection of of sadhana.
No.
It's not a rejection of even
It's a refinement of
external
it.
sadhana.
Let's put it like that.
Huh?
It's a refinement of sadhana.
Yes, a refinement. And so that speaks to me, because all the other is like, you can't even measure how far above me it is. And I like to hear it and think about it and read about it, but this is like practical for me.
Nice. Very good. Beautiful.
Let me see if Madan, do you have something to say, Madan? Are you with us?
Yes,
Madan?
but that's fine for me. It's not a good day for speaking.
Okay. Sorry. And Thakur, do you want to comment on this before we hear from Mukunda? If you're there.
Not necessarily right now. I'm just trying to absorb.
Okay, good. Hearing is the best. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just sentiment. Yeah.
Okay. Mukundaji?
Well, so these two verses, the verses that we just read, and then the third verse, those first two verses, the only two verses that Rupa Goswami wrote on Raganuga Bhakti and the whole Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. These are the only two verses he gave. Then they were elaborated on by the Acharyas, but he only gave these two verses, Krishna Smaram Janam Chasya, which is the first one, and Seva Sarika Rupena. And then all the other ones it was elaborated on by the Acharyas. Then the last one is the verse Shravanam Kirtanandini Vairi Bhakti Sudanti Tu, that we don't give up the practices if we're practicing Raganuga Bhakti. We don't altogether forget them.
No.
And he mentioned that we don't necessarily do Dwarka Dhyan or meditation on Rukmini. How this is reconciled is that Rupa Goswami wrote two dramas. One is called Vidagdha Madhav and one is called Lalit Madhav. So in Lalit Madhav, he reconciles how Dwarka is related to Vrindavan. So in this way, that reconciliation, because not like, because one time a devotee asked me, well, does that mean we never hear about Krishna's pastimes in Dwarka? So it doesn't mean that. It means what perspective we'll have when we hear those pastimes. So Rupa Goswami reconciled how to understand the Dwarka Leela from the perspective of desiring to live in Braj. So it's very wonderful. And just the last thing, I want to beg devotees' kindness to give me your mercy. I have so much respect for all of you. I have to travel for Harikatha again, so give me your mercy that everything will go well and that we'll be able to have nice Harikatha. And then whenever I am, Samapriya has given me an order if I am somewhere to try to come on. So if I'm somewhere and I have internet and so forth and so on, certainly I will.
Well, you
I'm
know,
wishing you safe travels, Prabhu.
yes, but next Saturday, my husband said, is the last of our meetings for this session. So it was really wonderful to have you with us.
Yes,
Mukundaji.
definitely. So we're thankful that you joined us.
Hare Krishna.
Great benediction.
Okay. Well, thank you all. Pati, you have something else to add?
No, I hope that's a little water for the Bhakti Latas.
Oh my goodness.
Water that and consider them. Just a note about our schedule. There are only 2 more lessons in this whole section that we've been reading. One more will be from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu about how those sages of Dandakaranya attained gopi bodies by performing Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. And finally, next Saturday, we'll discuss what we kind of touched upon today. There's a part of the Brahma Samhita and its purports, which describe these spiritual abodes of both Krishna and Lord Chaitanya and the devotees who attain those abodes.
Oh,
so those are our last 2
wow.
lessons.
Okay. Thank you all for your association. This has been wonderful. Vanchakalpatarujascha, Kripasindhuevascha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Thank you. It's so good to be back.
Yeah, nice to have you back. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.